If you're thinking about transitioning from a brick and mortar location to a virtual location, you may have some questions about how you should make the transition and what some things you should think about. Let me give you some things to consider. First, look at your services and your products and make a list of all the things that you do in person and all the things you think you can do virtually. Go down and be as very detailed as possible. Look at your business model and ask yourself the questions. What are all the things that I do in terms of what services I provide, what products I provide to my customers on a day-to-day basis, and determine how much money you're making on those things. And then break down as specific as possible a list of everything you do and ask yourself the question for each one of those questions. For each thing that you list, which one of those things can be done virtually and which one of those things have to be done in person? This way you can look and make a mental inventory in your mind of what things you can actually push over into providing in a virtual environment, as well as pushing over and just having to do it in an in-person environment. Number 2, prioritize. Okay, whenever we hear people talk about virtual, there's this natural thought that we're talking about basically just throwing stuff on the web. Ideally, that's a portion of it. The idea of virtual is what you're doing is you're saying how much of this I can do in combination with the web that doesn't require me to have to be physically there with the individual, and how much of that do I need to be there on site. Look at all the stuff that you're doing in terms of how much money you're making on those things and prioritize. So if you know that you have a certain amount of money that you generate revenue from doing a certain amount of services virtually, and you can do more of that, you may prioritize that over the in-person thing until we can get to a point where you can do it safer. Press and promotion. When you're making this transition from brick and mortar to virtual, you want to use every means possible to let people know this is going to be your new normal. And it just doesn't have to be over the radio or over the TV. And for some of you may not have even that amount of money to be able to pay for those things. It can be things like looking at your emails, which you should be capturing from all of your customers, and sending out a newsletter that you've created. It could be allowing yourself to be interviewed on various podcasting shows or even YouTube shows, because a lot of times these shows are combined together. Use all of these different mechanisms as ways to promote the changes that you're doing in your workplace, so this way it can be less painful to your customers. Partnerships. Use this as a great time, if you haven't, to start looking to those people who you've been sending business to or who've been sending business your way to kind of formalize your partnership relationships. Now, it doesn't have to be anything definitive in writing, but if you're doing this already, like I'm pretty sure you probably already have those kind of relationships, start being more aggressive about when you get people who come to you who may not be able to use your services. Start getting into the groove of sending them to the persons you refer them to, and not just sending them blindly. Send them to the person, get their information, and tell the people, hey, I'm going to contact them and let them know that you may be reaching out to them. So this way, what you do is you start getting into your partners or these people referral relationships' minds that, hey, they're actively looking out for cases or opportunities for us to make money, so we need to start doing the same. Number 5, infrastructure. Number 5, infrastructure. Now, I'm not just talking about your corporate infrastructure. So if you have an LLC or if you're an S Corp, things of that nature, that's part of it. But what I also want you to pay close attention to is what infrastructure do you have in place to operate in a virtual world? Do you have a social media presence? Do you have an account on something like Zoom, or do you FaceTime and so forth like that? Do you have a YouTube site that you have? All these things are operating in conjunction with each other to show people how all of the things that you normally do, you're doing it in a virtual world and you're taking your customers in mind. So start putting those infrastructures in place. Some people have those things already. They may have video sites, but just don't put up a whole lot of videos. They may have a Facebook page, but hardly ever use it. Start using it as the tool that it was meant to, so that this way you can show your customers that you're providing them the service as you're transitioning into this portion of the world. 6, your pipeline. This is the part that is most important for you. How are you getting those people coming to you? As you start identifying different areas, like if you're getting a lot of work from referrals from different people, if you're getting a lot of work from a particular Facebook page or a particular advertising page, If you're getting a lot of your pipeline, when I say pipeline, I'm talking about how you're getting your clients. Start being more aggressive about two things. One, continuing to feed into that pipeline, meaning when somebody is sending somebody to you, actively reach out to them to let them know thank you. If you're getting things from a particular website, go to that website and start putting more things on there to feed it out. But that's the first thing. But the second thing you need to do is start working more aggressively about making sure that those feeders into your pipeline are aware of your changes. So this way they're not shocked when all of a sudden your new clients come to you and they realize you're doing things different. All these things are great tools to help you as you're making this transition from a brick and mortar, knock on wood, to a virtual presence.